Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Skip Allen, and this is the Top 5 Weekly, where myself and my guests discuss a topic. It could be an actor, it could be an actress, it could be a genre, it could be a director. In this case, in honor of The Secret Garden, we're talking about fantasy films. And like always, I can never do this show. It would get kind of bored if I was just talking into a camera by myself. So I always have some panelists with me to discuss all these films with. And today I got two panelists I have not had before. Malcolm, a good buddy of mine. I've known him for quite a while. How you doing, Malcolm?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot that I was doing this until I was reminded yesterday. So my last list is probably a little bit rushed, but it does still sort of reflect sort of ones I really love to. So
All right, well, that's what I want to hear. And Alex Mack, finally get you on an episode that is up your alley here.
Not kidding, not kidding. I am pretty psyched. When you, because I'm in the chat already pretty consistently where you ask a whole bunch of people who wants to be in this week's episode and everything. And just because I'm already recording myself, quite a little bit with C2A. So I get a little selective when it comes to, if I'm going to be on, I want to be part of a category that I'm super psyched about. And so when I heard this one, I was like, I got to get on that one.
Well, good. I'm glad to have you, and hopefully we'll get you on more episodes in the future. Let's not mess around here. Let's get going. Malcolm, what is your number 5? And if Malcolm's number 5 is something on your list, Alex, or my list, like at 1 or 2 or 3 or so, would you just say hold on there, and then we'll get around to it eventually, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Malcolm, go ahead.
My number 5 is a movie I think is very underrated and doesn't get talked about enough, but it's Stardust.
Alex, do you have Stardust on your list?
That is actually one of my personal favorites. It's very sentimental. One of my favorite books to movies adaptations, but it's more of an honorable mention rather than my top 5.
Well, Malcolm, ironically enough, that's my number 5 as well. So go ahead, talk about it. Then I'll get a chance to talk about it after you.
When I first saw the trailer, I was like, I have no idea what this is. And so I went to see it, and I just had a great time. So I hadn't actually heard about this book until I saw the first trailer. So this is just a lot of fun, and Robert De Niro as a pirate, plus Michelle Pfeiffer. Just the cast is just incredible. I kind of wish I got more love so we could potentially maybe get a sequel or something. But it's just a movie I think everyone needs to check out more.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Malcolm. I love Stardust. I mean, it's got such, like you said, a great Claire Danes as Yvonne, Charlie Cox. We all know him as Daredevil, but now he was in Stardust. Michelle Pfeiffer, Robert De Niro, Sienna Miller, Henry Cavill, Mark Strong, Ben Barnes, Peter O'Toole. I mean, this has got a great cast, and it's directed by a very good guy, Matthew Vaughn, who the Kingsman, Kick-Ass. So this guy knows his way around a bunch of different kinds of genre. He did one of the X-Men films. And it has like a mix of great, interesting things in it, and magic and like you said, space pirates and all kind of love. Of course, in fantasy films, there's always love affairs and romance and stuff that happens. But this is one, like you said, Malcolm, that doesn't get enough love. It really is a great film, and it showed to me that Matthew Vaughn really could make movies. And after this, boy, he started making all kinds of bunch of great movies. Alex, you got any thoughts on Stardust?
Again, it's one of my favorite books and movies. I read the book when I was in high school. It's really, really great. It's actually written by Neil Gaiman. He's fantastic. He creates he's one of those authors that's incredibly creative when it comes to creating these like really rich worlds between this Sandman, the Good Omens and everything. It's such a rich world when it comes when he creates it. Going into this, it's so difficult for that to be projected so well on screen, even come down to the costumes, production value. It's so fantastic. And I love that the entire cast knows exactly what kind of film they're making. They're not trying to make something like overly dramatic. They know they're making this kind of almost childlike fantasy movie with these like completely wondrous characters. But especially when you even like watching it in the finer details, it even comes down to like all the 7 brothers that end up like killing each other. Like each of them has like this, like the buttons have like the numbers on them. I mean, little things like that. The details go so far, and the more you watch it, the more you enjoy it. So it just gets better as time goes on. I love it.
All right, so let's go to Alex. You're number 5.
Number 5. I mean, come on, it's Return of the King. I'm sorry. It's Return of the
King. I've got that higher.
Okay.
When it comes to Return of the King, I love the trilogy. It's so amazing.
All right, Alex, we got to hold on there for a second. I know you want to talk about it, but Malcolm has it higher. So what we're going to do?
Okay, fair. Is there like a term we like to say? Like I know the Top 10 podcast, they said something particular. Do you guys like to say anything particular?
Hold on there.
Fair. I was sure there's like a keyword or something.
Hold your horses.
Hold up, bruh.
Yeah, Malcolm, when Malcolm gets around to it, then both you guys can have that discussion. And Malcolm and I have already talked about our number 5, so we're going to go back to Malcolm for his number 4.
My number 4 I've got is Princess Bride.
Princess Bride. Alex, do you have the Princess Bride?
No. Again, part of my honorable mentions. I made like 12, 13 movies on this list, and that was, again, part of the honorable mentions. I didn't really discover that movie until personally a little bit later, so I'm not super into the Princess Bride hype train, but I really, really enjoy it. It's endlessly quotable, and I mean, like, come on.
So, Malcolm, I do not have the Princess Bride either, and I kind of messed up there. I meant to put it on my list, and I think I forgot when I was going through the movies that I wanted to put on my list, and it slipped me, end up on my honorable mention. So guess what, buddy? You get to talk about this one.
Yeah, Princess Bride is just a fantastic movie. I mean, it's one that definitely has a bunch of genres that it crosses into. You've got romance, you've got comedy, you've got fantasy, you've got drama, you've got a lot of different things in this movie. And this is just one that's endlessly credible. Like, my name is Inigo Montoya. You kill my father, prepare to die, or inconceivable. So many different things about this movie that's great. And Andre the Giant, like, no one ever thought he would see him in something that's not wrestling related, but it's just one of those things that he's going to be remembered for. And this movie, I think, is going to go down well remembered in time, and I believe that Garth has said many a times that he actually read the book and was out probably sort of the theaters before. Yeah,
I'll tell you, like Wallace Shawn. I don't know if anybody remembers Wallace Shawn. I think he's the dinosaur in Toy Story, but he's been in so many different things. Wallace Shawn has been in. Carrie Elwes. I don't know if it's streaming yet right now. What I always do when I want to know where a movie is playing, I go to the movie itself on Google and I look below it. It'll say Vudu, Netflix, YouTube, all these different things. That's how I know where I can find the movie. But yeah, Andre the Giant. I don't know if you saw the documentary about Andre, but this is a big part of the Andre documentary. They talk about how important he was in this movie. Carrie Elwes. I mean, this Carrie Elwes. There's 2 movies that, to me. Well, I guess you could say Saw, but this and Robin Hood Men in Tights. That's what I think of Carrie Elwes when I think he's just so good at playing that deadpan humor. Being the straight guy in a funny movie and stuff like that. And this really did. I mean, when you first started,
being a straight guy in any of his movies. Let's be honest.
Well,
he's not okay. Sure, I can argue he definitely can be a straight guy, but in Men in Tights in this movie, he's not this. He's not the straight guy.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, he's actively being funny.
Okay, all
pretty
right.
consistently.
All right, I'll give you that much. All right. I know they're funny movies, so they're funny movies. Both of them are funny movies, and he's a funny guy, and I like him. I like him in this movie. And I honestly, Malcolm, I didn't watch this movie till very, very recently, maybe like a year ago. I got the Criterion, and I watched it, and I was like, why didn't I watch this movie sooner?
Endlessly quotable.
I loved it. I thought it was so fun. And so, Alex, you got any thoughts about it?
Well, I mean, just like I said earlier, it came down to how often do I rewatch it, and I do like to watch it like every year or so. But it's not like one of those movies that I like to constantly go back to and actively think about, versus like the rest of the movies on my list. But it's so great, and again, endlessly quotable. Every character is iconic. Billy Crystal. Yeah. I mean, it was like a miracle. Like every character has their own individual moments that really make them stand out. It's funny all around, and yeah, it's just like one of those movies from start to finish. It's just so light and funny. And Kat, what do you want? Sweet baby Jesus, are you in or out of this room? You got to make up your fucking mind. My cat is just meowing for no reason at me.
Wow. Cats, usually when they meow, they want some food. I don't know. What do I know? You know. But all right, we're gonna go to you, Alex, for your number 4.
Mine's definitely more of a classic. I grew up with this movie. I rediscovered it as an adult very recently, and I just was reminded how great it ages. And that would be the Oscar-winning Mary Poppins.
I do not have Mary Poppins. Malcolm, do you have Mary Poppins?
I don't have Mary Poppins either.
Right,
Mary Poppins is fantastic. It's so great for so many reasons. It was actually one of the first like major multi Oscar-winning movie for the Disney company overall, obviously outside of animation, but it's so great. I mean, Julie Andrews, she's so charismatic and enigmatic, and it creates this such all the characters are so wonderful, and the dance scenes, Dick Van Dyke, it's so great. And not to mention, even watching it today, it's still just as thrilling. The dance, the choreography, everything is just so beautiful across the board, and everything is just so fucking catchy. And I saw Mary Poppins Returns, and that movie eats shit. Emily Blunt, she's wonderful, but everyone else, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's not.
I understand it's nearly impossible to recapture the magic that is Mary Poppins as her character and everything. And it's so great. I don't care how old you are, if you're a boy or a girl or anywhere in between or whatever your situation is, you are going to find something to really, really love when it comes to Mary Poppins. And if you don't, I probably won't like you as a person.
No, you're absolutely right. I will absolutely 100% agree with you, Alex. I like to quote John Campea. We all know who John Campea is. John Campea always says this. He says, if you don't like the remake, reboot, reimagining, you still have the original. And in this case, Mary Poppins was a damn good original, and we still have that one, despite the new one with Emily Blunt. And the songs are just so catchy, super fragilistic, expialidocious. I mean, the medicine goes down. I mean,
sugar. I mean,
iconic. And in the new one, the songs aren't as good. Let's just be honest, the songs just aren't as good. And then Emily Blunt, she's
wonderful.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, fantastic. Just the songs just weren't as catchy, and that's what makes Mary Poppins so great. Those songs, when you could just be working or doing your work just around the house, you could whistle the songs. They're so memorable. Malcolm, you got any thoughts on Mary Poppins?
Yeah, this is one I just slipped my mind when I was thinking of fantasy. I mean, it's one of those ones like when I was thinking of fantasy, I was going to more the extravagant, the ones that are clear fantasies. Like Mary Poppins is one of those ones in which the fantasy
it's like sneaky fantasy.
She's
She's literally
she's a witch.
almost like an angelic creature. She's literally descending from the heavens in an umbrella that talks to her. She's like Merlin, where she has like a million and bazillion things coming out of her bag. She's essentially Dumbledore.
She's the adult Hermione
Granger grown up.
There you go.
I don't know how much more fantasy you can get set in timey-wimey London. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's. Yeah. I mean, it probably I mean, as I said, I completely sort of rushed this. It's probably more of a case of I probably would have.
Excuses, Malcolm. Excuses.
Yeah.
He's like over there. Don't be giving me any excuses, Malcolm. Malcolm, I understand you can't have everything. You only can put 5 things on your list, so I understand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was really.
But yeah, I mean, I've got an all-time classic on mine anyway. But like with Mary Poppins, it's one that I do love. I love all the songs and all that, and it is a great movie. And it probably would have made a list had I sort of thought about it or actually thought about it sort of when I knew that I was doing this. But with doing a lot of lists, shows and stuff or other things, like you get so busy caught up. But I will say this, I also do like Mary Poppins Returns, and I think the songs are pretty catchy. So
yeah, like once you start thinking about it, once you start thinking about Mary Poppins, you're reminded how much you love it. I've never met anyone and I've had numerous conversations throughout my life where we're talking about our favorite movies growing up and stuff like that. Everyone I've talked to across the board, regardless of age, Mary Poppins comes up and they're all like, yeah, that was an awesome movie. Even now the special effects are great. It's like a movie of the time to do something like that, and it still holds up.
Yeah, they really do. All right, so
I mean, come on.
what were you saying, Malcolm?
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure there's someone in the fan leagues that is on record saying they think Mary Poppins Returns is better than the first one.
It's
okay. People are allowed to be wrong.
No,
exactly.
Film is all subjective. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. All right, so it's we're going off to my number 4. When I was a kid, there was this channel called PBS. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it. PBS used to have all these kinds of shows, and they did a mini series of this series of books that I was like blown away. And then they did a series of movies, and the first movie in the series was like fantastic. It's called The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Does anybody have that on their list?
Nope.
I'll tell you what. The other 2 movies in the franchise, not that good. The first one, I mean, you had talent like Liam Neeson as Aslan the Lion. You had Tilda Swinton as the White Queen. You had Mr. Tumnus, James McAvoy. I mean, what a great cast this was. And it just had something for me as a kid. And then when I saw the adult version, when I saw the new version as an adult, I really loved it. And it has some darkness in it. It has some fun things in it. It has rabbits running around and animals running around. It has fawns and witches, all kinds of. It's basically about these kids that go into this magical world through this wardrobe, and it's fun. I really enjoyed it. The other 2, like I said, Prince Caspian and The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, not that good. The other ones just aren't as good as the first one, in my opinion. So I have the first one on there, and I'm a big fan of the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I mean, Malcolm, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is one that I love the movie. It's just one that kind of would have just felt been 6 or 7 for me. Like, one thing people forget is everyone goes like New Zealand, it's Middle Earth. People forget we're also Narnia as well, because Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was formed in New Zealand as well.
Oh, wow.
As well. The 2 sequels, I think, we've moved on to other places, but the first one was formed here, so everyone forgets that. So I mean, but it's one of those ones that the movies were grand. What Andrew Adamson did with it just brought the book to life. I kind of wish the sequels were a little bit better. I mean, I still enjoy watching them, but I wish they were better for us to actually get the whole series.
Well, I think Netflix,
oops.
Malcolm. I think it's coming to Netflix. I think they're going to do the whole series on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Usually, when you say "correct me if I'm wrong," someone will go out and try to correct you because it's how life is. The internet is. They want to correct you. They want to make you look like a fool. But yeah, Alex, you got any thoughts on the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe?
I like it. I mean, I like whenever I think of it, I'm like, this is a pretty cool prequel to Harry Potter.
Oh man, oh man, you killed me. You killed me. But all right, that's fine. That's fine. All right, let's go.
I mean, I really do enjoy it. You're totally right. A lot of the actors, I mean, they're really cool. Tilda Swinton's like, girl.
She's evil. She's evil in that.
She betrayed her family for a box of sweeties, and I was like, dude, go.
Yeah, I know.
Honestly, the big one of the big things for me, like that really stood out to me more so than the production, the actors. I didn't feel like the actors were particularly great outside of like the voice acting, which is kind of arguable, but also Tilda Swinton, Mr. Thomas, was the score. That is a badass fucking score. And also Regina Spektor's song that plays during the credits, I still listen to every now and again.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So we're going to go back to Malcolm. Malcolm, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is my favorite movie of this series. When I was told I could limit Harry Potter to only one, I really had trouble figuring out which one I was going to put on, but I decided I'll put on the one that is my number 1 of the franchise, and it still is there after I did a recent rewatch just recently, and it's Harry Potter: The Order of the Phoenix.
Ooh, all right, Malcolm. I think one of us has got some Harry Potter on their list later on, but we do not have this one. So, Malcolm, Alex, do you have The Order of the Phoenix on your list?
Nope.
All right, neither do I, Malcolm. But I do have a Harry Potter film at number 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip Alex and go to me, and then we're going to go back to Alex after you and I get a chance to talk about some Harry Potter. So unless Alex has got a Harry Potter film later on in her list. All right, good. Malcolm, go ahead. Talk about The Order of the Phoenix.
But yeah, I know the most obvious choice is probably the one that Dan's got on his, which I won't say just in case I do spoil it. But I love Order of the Phoenix more because I think it stays true to the book and it tries to have the spirit of the book in movie length, and I think it is done in a good way, and I think you get all the plot beats you need from the book in there. Well, yes, they did have to cut some stuff, but every book adaptation, you have to cut stuff. But this is just one I really love because all the acting is great. You've got Imelda Staunton as Umbridge, who's just become great as nasty.
Nasty. Perfect.
And it's just one of those ones like Alan Rickman steps up as Snape even more. You've just got so much happening.
We hate her more than Voldemort because of that movie.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of memes that erupted from that movie was like, sure, we all hate Voldemort and everything's done to Harry's family and, you know, Wizarding World as a whole, but Umbridge, we hate.
She's perfect. I mean, when you read the books, Malcolm, I'm not going to interrupt. I want you to keep going. But when you read those books and you see the character of Umbridge jump off the page in your eyes and you're reading it, you just can't imagine how nasty and how evil and how awful this character could. And then when you got to see Imelda Staunton portray that character, you're like, oh my God, it's perfection. Because you absolutely hate her. Malcolm, go ahead, keep going.
Oh yeah, this is just one that there's not really much more I've got left to say on this. I could talk about Harry Potter for ages. Don't get me wrong, but All of the Phoenix is just the one I think it shows sort of like even later on, it shows everything Voldemort is willing to go to by taking advantage of Harry having the dreams and stuff. Well, they tried to get Harry to stop having the dreams. It happens, but it just shows even the fight scenes and stuff are really stepped up, and this is where you see sort of the first sort of big scale battle between a whole bunch of wizards, and I think it's all just done perfection. I know a lot of people don't like this because it's a longer book. They think they could have crammed it in. I mean, I do admit that from here on is probably where they could have taken advantage of maybe making it 2 movies to spread it out a little bit. But I think it works in one movie, and I sort of stand by this. I'll probably explain why I like this over the other one just once Dan reveals what his one is.
Well, I want to just comment on yours, and I'll tell you, Malcolm, when I read this book, and I'm telling you, I read it 5 times. I was like, how the hell are they going to make this book into a movie? And when I saw the movie, I was blown away. I was literally blown away by how much they explored in the world of Harry Potter. You know, the Department of Mysteries and all the place where the Weasley's father works, and so many of this stuff that went on there, you know, because Harry Potter had to go to the court, the tribunal. And then at the beginning with the Dementors attacking what's his face, Fatty. What was the kid's name? The Fatty at the beginning. What was his name? No, you know, the kid he gave him a pig's tail.
Dursley.
Yeah, Hagrid gave him a pig's tail at the beginning in the first one. That stuff, I was like, oh, I want to see how they do that, and they really did that stuff. Some of the stuff like that really effective. And like you said, Malcolm, there's a lot of subplots in the book that, and look, you can't take everything in every book and make it into part of the movie. And Harry Potter books have subplots within them that just aren't necessary for the overall through line of the movie. And the dang on movie would have been 4 hours if they kept all the subplots, you know, like the DEA. What was the
Dumbledore's Army?
Yeah, Dumbledore's Army. Some of that stuff in one of the books said the Dumbledore's Army, and then the elf. Remember, there was the Elf Protection Act or whatever. They were trying to create this group where they were trying to protect the elves. And some of that subplots you just don't need in the movie. Because guess what, people? You go back and read the book like I did 5 times. I read them all 5 times, and so. I think the darkness really started in this book. Well, at the end of the Goblet of Fire, but there was a lot of dark stuff in the Order of the Phoenix. You got to see a lot of the world building of Harry Potter. That's what I love about Order of the Phoenix. Before I talk about mine, Alex, you got any thoughts on Order of the Phoenix?
I mean, I think you guys kind of really said it all. I really do like a lot of the darker elements. I do disagree where I don't think it is the beginning of the darker aspects of Harry Potter that where it starts to explore. I think that comes a tad bit earlier. But yeah, I feel like it's pretty spot on. I mean, it's very difficult to make a villain more treacherous than Voldemort, but they aced it with Professor Umbridge.
Yeah,
not Professor. But also, I think it was really a nice exploration of, you know, the Department of Mysteries and everything as well. So I'm really, that's where I feel like this is like one of the movies where it completely aces it, and how it kind of goes about the ministry and everything like that. That's what kind of makes me a little more disappointed with later movies, honestly, because I feel like this one aces it, whereas some of the newer ones don't ace it as much.
Yes.
But that's a whole other conversation. I digress. But it's probably it's definitely my second or third favorite of the Harry Potter franchise in general.
Same here, absolutely. All right, so we're gonna go to my number 3. Sorry, Alex, I'm not doing this on purpose. Just so happens we're talking about Harry Potter.
Oh, no, totally.
I figured it would work out this way better. My number 3 is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Malcolm probably figured that one out already, but You know what I love about first of all, it's directed by Alfonso Cuarón, one of my favorite directors, one of the three amigos, 2-time Oscar winner for Best Director, and he won Best Picture. No, he didn't. No, he never won Best Picture. He won Best Director twice. But we finally get to see some extra characters, some new characters that we haven't really talked about. And we get to see Harry explore some of the world of Harry Potter with the night bus. And, I love the night bus. That stuff was great. Then you get to see Padfoot. You get to see Prongs. You get to see, Sirius Black. You get to see Wormtail. You get to see some of these characters and how it connected to Harry's father and the performance. One of my favorite Gary Oldman performances, but I also like Timothy Spall and David Thewlis. And of course, you get to see a little bit more of Snape, which is my favorite character in the entire Harry Potter series, because I can really relate to Snape a lot in a personal level. But I really thought they got the book really good, and you get to see some of the adventurous, and you got to see Cuarón's style in Harry Potter. The first movie that wasn't directed by Chris Columbus, which was different. It was meant for kids. The first two were kind of kiddie movies in a way, and this is where they started going towards a little bit of teenagers, adult, a little bit darker, like you said, Alex. There was a little bit of a
I think it's a good introduction into some of the darker aspects, like I mentioned.
So I really enjoy Prisoner of Azkaban. Malcolm, you kind of got me. You figured me out early on, pretty much, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, Prisoner of Azkaban is just about everyone's favorite Harry Potter.
All right, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, Prisoner of Azkaban just seems to be like the popular number one that everyone seems to put on their list when they're ranking it, and it's not a bad thing to like that one. And it's Prisoner of Azkaban is my second favorite. I think Order is the slightly better movie, but I mean, pretty much I like all the Harry Potter movies anyway. I even like the Fantastic Beasts. Like my lowest one is Goblet on 3 stars, so it's not like I've given anyone a 1 star or something. So
yeah, Alex, you got any thoughts on Prisoner of Azkaban?
Again, not my favorite Harry Potter movie. It would be Half-Blood Prince. But I guess
I love Half-Blood
definitely. Prince. Yeah, I love it. It's also my favorite book, so I'm a little.
They messed up the book, though. To me, not getting off on a tangent here, they kind of mess up the book. That really kind of like knocks Half-Blood down a little bit for me, because that's where you need to take a little bit better stock in the book. In my opinion, they don't do that in the movie. But whatever. We're talking about Prisoner of Azkaban.
It's all good. I do agree with you. We definitely get a little more background history on some of the most iconic characters of, the Wizarding World. Severus Snape. And again, he's one of my favorite characters overall in the franchise. However, it really didn't like me. It made me not like him all that much. I really Severus Snape, I liked him, and then I started not liking him because of the end of the franchise. But that's a whole other conversation. Regardless, that's a whole other conversation right there. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's also what I really love about this movie is really kind of calling to attention. It's also my favorite Quidditch match in the movie. Isn't this movie? The Quidditch match. I'm like, this is my favorite across the board. But also I think it's really cool how we kind of see more aspects of the world of Hogwarts in particular, a little more of the geography of Hogwarts, because before we would get a lot of a lot of the hallways and stuff, but we're actually getting much more understanding of the castle itself. The castle, it's pretty much its own character. It has a personality, with all the ghosts and everything as well. And this movie really explores that, to me, the best out of the entire franchise. So I love that part.
We got Hogsmeade, and we got a little bit of the world, like you said, a little bit more of the world outside of Hogwarts, which was really good. All right, so that is basically our discussion of Harry Potter movies. So now we're going to go to Alex's number 3, since she did not have a Harry Potter movie. Talk about it.
It's really tight here, guys. This was actually one of the first non-Disney animated movies I ever watched. So it's a very sentimental movie to me, but it's amazing to me. It's one of the movies I still reference to this day pretty consistently with my family, and that would be Princess Mononoke.
Oh, wow. Malcolm, do you have Princess Mononoke on your list?
I haven't seen it.
I do not have it on my list. Great film by Miyazaki. Go ahead.
Oh, God. So good. Okay. So Princess Mononoke is this wonderful story. It's based on a lot of the older tales in Japanese history, but also has really great messages. There's this idea of industrialism and advancement of man, but also the destruction of the old world, of the ancient gods as well, and also this idea that what comes with it, this focus on animal rights and environmentalism and everything as well. And so there's this understanding of the old ways and the new ways, and there's kind of that tribal aspect between different groups of people. But it's such a beautiful movie. The score is wonderful. The visuals are absolutely stunning. It's fantastic. And there's so many of these little creatures, which I feel like Hayao Miyazaki movies and, those movies in general, they're so wonderful at creating all these individual little weird characters that you have never seen before in any other movie. Like there's these weird little tree spirits that go and up against the trees and these big white dot eyes, and they're wonderful. But when it comes to my family, it was like one of the first weird movies that I really connected with my family. And again, till this day, my brother, he's actively trying to get like a sibling tattoo with me where we have like the tree spirits tattooed. So it's a beautiful, beautiful movie, but it's like so much of it's sentimental for me as well. But I really do love a lot of the messages behind it. The characters are stunning as well. The Wolf Princess, the Prince, the Iron Lady. It's wonderful all around. I have no critiques whatsoever.
Yeah, Miyazaki, I mean, you think, okay, there's no way this guy could keep making great animated films. I mean, they have a marathon at movie theaters now of the Miyazaki films. It's like 2 a week, and they go on for like 3 months. That's how many great films this guy has in his filmography. And Princess Mononoke is one of the best ones. And I completely agree with you. It explores this really fantastical world, and it's terrific for kids of all ages and adults for that matter. I mean, how can you not love this film and this guy's films? I mean, he said he stopped making films, but it's our loss because, like, man, it stinks. Because you want this guy to keep making films.
The guy's retired like 5 times.
Yeah.
But he just goes into nature for like a few months and he's like, I got an idea. I want to make another movie. That's essentially how his retirement goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's like a lot of the Ghibli movies have kind of just passed me just because I've either missed them in the cinemas or just haven't been able to catch them. But now that like international Netflix have got the streaming rights, it's actually going to come onto Netflix next beginning of March, so I will check it out. I do plan on checking out all the Ghibli movies as soon as they sort of become available.
Please do. I'd love to hear what you think about Malcolm. I really would. It's one of those movies I kind of wish I had never seen them just so I could experience them for the first time. It's also one of those movies. If you watch it when you're a child, you take certain messages from it in such a wonderful, beautiful way. But if you're an adult, you see it in a completely new way. That's just as wonderful and beautiful. But it just makes you think. It's wonderful.
Great movies do that. That's all great movies make you think.
Movies should do that overall as well. Mm-hmm.
All right, Malcolm, we're going back to you with your number 2.
Well, my number 2 is one that a lot of people are probably going to guess would be my number 1, but it's not. My number 2 is Return of the King.
All right, so you get to talk about Return of the King, and Alice gets to talk about Return of the King. So once Malcolm's done, Alex, you can talk about it because that was your number 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Malcolm, go ahead.
Yeah. So the Lord of the Rings trilogy is just really well done, and I think Return of the King is the perfect cap on that trilogy. I know a lot of people knock it because of the multiple endings and all that, and they say The Two Towers is the better movie, but I think Return of the King sort of finishes off the arc and just does what it needs to. And the fact that Peter Jackson managed to get as much of the book in there with not making the trilogy a ridiculous long running time, depending on if you've got the extended or the usual ones. But
Can we get a clarification on which version you're referring to, Malcolm?
I'm talking about the Peter Jackson Return of the King.
Oh no, sorry. I mean, like, there's like 5 different versions of that movie. I mean, there's an extended version, there's TV versions, there's. I feel like every few years there's like a new kind of a slightly new version with new scenes and stuff. So I was kind of curious.
I mean, I don't know. All I know is there's 2. There's the theatrical version, which I think is the one they typically show on the television and the extended. I don't know if there's any. I don't know if there's any other ones I don't know about. But I mean, this is one of those ones like I could watch the extended ones all day and just be fine with it, because the extended ones is the one I watch mostly now anyway. But I mean, to me it doesn't matter which version of it. Like Peter was one of those ones that used like, this movie's going on too long. I'll cut some of this out, but I know I'm probably going to do an extended version because all the stuff is still relevant to the story and adds to it as well. So I mean, the fact that he's one of those ones that like sort of knows what he can sacrifice and add in later if he wants to an extended version. It's just one of those ones that it's still masterfully done. Like, this is one that I know there's a lot of arguments that been talking about this for lists. You should just say Lord of the Rings trilogy or the Hobbit trilogy. But I think it doesn't deserve just to get lump it all as one. I think each movie is still its own thing, regardless.
All right, Alex, you're number 5.
It's I mean, it's really, really great. To me it's very similar to Endgame, where it's not a culmination of like 20 something movies, obviously, but at the same time it's just definitely one of those movies that it feels nearly impossible to really wrap up all these individual storylines, yet still acing the characters and the scenes of everyone, where every scene feels valuable. There's no wasted time, especially in a movie that long. It seems like there should be, yet surprisingly, it feels like a very tight movie, even though it's like crazy long. But also at the same time, it goes by really fast when you watch it. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's I personally do prefer Two Towers. It's actually my favorite of the 3. However, I chose Return of the King personally because I feel like it's much more satisfying to watch. It's so difficult to wrap up a movie so beautifully, and not to mention it has. I mean, it's some of the creatures of that movie. Peter Jackson, we talk about Guillermo del Toro about making some of the best creatures of all time, but I want you to take another look at that deleted scene where Aragorn, he's up at the gate where they're having that final battle. And that thing, I don't know what it was, with them had like nothing in their mouth. Meanwhile, his like face was like this. I don't know what he was. But it was one of the most terrifying scenes. I still actively think about like maybe once a week. But when it comes to a lot of the themes and everything, again, it's like one of those movies that I do think about this trilogy at least actively a few times a week when it comes to either the music, the characters. I think about the battle scenes. I used to think about my 12-year-old crush version on Orlando Bloom. So it's just wonderful. It really is.
Yeah. So I have a different Lord of the Rings movie on my list, and because we're talking about Lord of the Rings, I'm just gonna talk about my number one, because we're talking about Lord of the Rings. I had a different movie. I had the Fellowship of the Ring on my list as my number one. I thought that just the beginning of this world and coming into this world and seeing these characters for the first time, and then seeing some of the creatures for the first time. Ian McKellen, to me, in the Fellowship of the Ring, was phenomenal. This guy got robbed of an Oscar, if you ask me. I mean, he should have won. That scene where he's fighting the Balrog, "You shall not pass!" That, to me, is one of the great scenes in movie history, let alone the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And just to be introduced to the Hobbiton and all the different characters, and have them all come together and form the Fellowship, and you're into this world and stuff like that. To me, that's why I like the Fellowship of the Ring better than the Return of the King. But I look at the Return of the King as a rewarding of a trilogy. They're saying, this guy nailed it, so we're going to give him 11 Oscars. Great job. Hey, good for you. Good for you, Oscars.
Well, the thing is, I mean, like, the movie, I feel like it didn't get the respect it deserved in spite of getting the 11 Oscars. Sure, it did get all those Oscars, and it got all those nominations. However, it got, like, as far as how many acting nominations did it get?
One acting nomination. The entire trilogy got one acting nomination.
So stupid. It's one of those things where it was like one of the first, like, when it comes for a long time until, like, very recently, only the past few years, have the Academy been okay with giving nominations or awards to genre movies like sci-fi, fantasy, or horror, or whatever it may be, to these movies. But they're like, hey, but you guys can get, like, technical awards.
Yeah, well, Malcolm, correct me if I'm wrong, Malcolm.
Cool.
All three got nominated for Best Picture? Or only the last one?
And yet, did he get Best Director?
Yes, he got Best Director for the third film. I think he got nominated twice for Best Director, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think Two Towers got Best Picture. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
But
it's rewarding him. The third one, they were rewarding him for the whole trilogy. Malcolm, what were you saying?
I was about to say, on your point about the acting nominations, I can kind of understand why the acting, like, kind of sort of fell under the radar, because it's an ensemble piece, and because all the actors are pretty good. I think it's a case of the Academy, maybe it's like they put up to consideration, it's like, I don't see that person being a lead over that one, or supporting of. I think that
I can totally understand. In that case, just nominate him for Best Supporting Actor. If that's there's numerous movies where they're completely ensemble movies, yet they're not nominated for Best Actor, because it's such a weird.
Yeah.
Ian McKellen is the only one that's got nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, and he got robbed. He should have won.
And it's because it's Ian fucking McKellen. I mean, that's the reason why he was nominated.
His filmography is ridiculous. I mean, he is an incredible actor. And I really am. That's one of the Oscars that I really get upset at, that he did not win for Best Supporting Actor for playing Gandalf. But yeah, so I like the Fellowship Ring. Real quick, Malcolm, you got any thoughts on the Fellowship over why I like that one, or why the difference between the other one?
I mean, it's one of those ones, like with Fellowship. I do like it. The reason I probably don't put it as high as I do when it comes to sort of ranking the Lord of the Rings. It's more of it's a slow one to get into, because it is a lot of exposition. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's more, I think, Return of the King sort of wraps everything up, and I think gives everyone nice moments. Like Fellowship just sort of sets everything up, and it's the slow one of the series. And I mean, you're always going to get something like that when the book is, that's the way the book is structured as well. It's like, and the fact that he formed sort of the whole trilogy in 3 years and just had it all cut, but even before the first one was released. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's why it's always tied. As
Alex, you got any thoughts on Fellowship, real quick?
I really do love it. I mean, it's a really fun, wonderful movie. It's like, again, it's one of the. If you guys ever do a top 5, top 10, whatever it may be, on top movies that create world building, Fellowship would be on that list. Just saying.
Yeah, I just love it. There's something about the comedy.
Yeah.
You know, remember when they all go into the Bilbo's kitchen or their house, and they're making dinner and they're cleaning all the place up and all that. I think that scene is just so cool. I just love that.
Yeah.
That scene is. But okay, so that was my number 1. I wanted to get that in there since we're talking about the Lord of the Rings. We're gonna go to Alex's number 2 now.
So okay, so I am going with one of the best movies of all time, and it's my number 2. I have to go with a little movie by Guillermo del Toro called Pan's Labyrinth.
I like it. That's my number 2.
Pan's Labyrinth. Nothing from you, Malcolm? How dare
no,
you? Wow. How dare you?
Wow.
Okay, so Pan's Labyrinth it's probably one of my favorite movies of all time. It's probably my top 15, top 20 movies of all time. The reason is because this movie is such a wonderful understanding of several things, of this idea of fantasy versus reality, this idea of, childlike innocence, a child's imagination, but also this idea that, child's imagination and all these really great, wonderful things can be corrupt. It's not the right word, can be manipulated. And so suddenly you start noticing like a lot of these darker creatures and these terrifying darker themes that are popping up. But it's so beautiful. The creatures are amazing. It's fantastic. What's his face that was in Shape of Water?
Doug Jones.
Yes, thank you, Doug Jones. He's also one of my favorite Buffy the Vampire Buffy the Vampire Slayer episodes. Anyway, but he is wonderful as the Fawn and as a few other characters, and he's created some of these iconic monsters. Remember, with the eyes, and it's just so creepy. It's taking so many really wonderful dark themes from these really intense fairy tales that we kind of associate with the Brothers Grimm and everything, where there's this mentality behind the older Brothers Grimm stories, that the reason why we have these fairy tales are to really let people know that bad things happen to kids that don't follow directions. And bad things happen to her if she doesn't follow directions. She ate something off the table when she wasn't supposed to, and bad things happen. Go figure. Little things like that. But it's set in a world as well, in Spain, where country's at war, civil war, on the backdrop. So she's kind of going through this process of trying to handle this grief and anger and lack of understanding with the world around her, meanwhile trying to kind of manage by having this kind of imagination run wild as a result, while her moving in with her mom and stepfather.
Yeah, wow, you said a mouthful, Alex.
Sorry, I monologue. I apologize.
That's fine. No, this show is all about talking about the movies that you love, and that's why I do the show. I want people to share what they have to say. I absolutely love Pan's Labyrinth. It's one of my top 10 movies of the decade of the 2000s. Guillermo del Toro, absolute masterpiece. He wins an Oscar or a couple Oscars for Shape of Water. He should have won for Pan's Labyrinth. This movie is incredible. You said it all. I mean, Doug Jones is playing these just incredible characters. The Fawn, the guy with the hands, the eyeballs in the hands. And then it's on the backdrop of the Spanish Civil War, which is also on the backdrop of World War III. So you're dealing with Nazis and you're dealing with all that kind of stuff. You have this realistic world, yet you have this world of this labyrinth that this little girl has to maneuver and get through and trying to figure out a way to survive. I mean, it is an absolute classic fairy tale with such realistic characters in a realistic world. I mean, if you didn't realize this world was real, you wouldn't have known. I mean, that's the one thing I love about Guillermo del Toro. He likes to do practical. Everything's got to be practical. He does not like to do CGI stuff. Sometimes his movies can get a little pricey, and that's where the studios get a little scared because he wants to do. That's why he didn't do Hellboy 3, because he wanted to do it practical. Practical costs money. So maybe we should have went with his version of Hellboy 3. Who knows? We won't get into that.
He apparently demanded like $180 million.
Well, I heard like $300 million. Yeah, a lot of money. A lot more money.
Considering like Golden Army barely cracked 100, but that's an entire.
That's why they did it. Because they weren't making money. Hellboy movies didn't make money. Were they good movies? Sure, but they don't make money. Money talks. My old man used to say, "Money talks, BS walks." I'll tell you that all day long, people. So when you don't make money, ain't gonna get sequels. Ain't gonna give you any more money to make more movies. But he had a chance to make Pan's Labyrinth, and it's probably. I mean, if I had to make a top 10 of the entire, 21st century, Pan's Labyrinth would be on that list. What
do you think happened at the end of the movie?
Honestly,
did she actually die?
No. There's no way she died. There's no way she died at the end. I mean, no spoilers. We don't want to give it away. Malcolm, have you seen Pan's Labyrinth?
As it's one of those open endings, which that's so great to explore. So
no, they weren't. No, he ain't gonna kill her. No way. No,
you're right. Okay.
They're gonna kill a little girl.
I mean, those that know me know when it comes to foreign language films, I'm not a big fan when they're subtitled. I like to sort of lose myself in a movie, and I really find it hard to do that when there's words underneath.
Like Parasite, then.
I haven't yet seen Parasite. I mean, Pan's Labyrinth is one that if it's a highly praised foreign language movie, it's one I'll give a shot, which is why I'm probably going to give Parasite a shot at watching at some stage. And I thought the set design was fine, and I think it was a good movie. It's just one that's not made for me. That's where it comes down to, like, and it's foreign language movies for me. Like, I always prefer them subbed and overdubbed. So
I love
them
heart.
I mean, we have a lot of great filmmakers in this country, Malcolm. But I'm telling you right now, obviously, Bong Joon-ho is a prime example. Guillermo del Toro, Alfonso Cuarón, Alejandro González Iñárritu, the Three Amigos. I mean, they're everywhere, and I'm glad for what happened with Parasite, because then people now can explore foreign film and like the Three Colors trilogy. That's Poland. I mean, there's so many great films from other countries. And your guy, speaking of a guy in your country, Taika Waititi. Nobody ever heard of Taika Waititi. What We Do in the Shadows, Hunt for the Wilder People. Then, bam, he gets Thor, and now he gets nominated for Oscars and win an Oscar for JoJo. Everybody, Taika Waititi. Guess what? Nobody ever heard of him. Came from New Zealand. Directed a little film called What We Do in the Shadows.
That's not considered a foreign language film, though.
But it's a foreign country, though. It's a foreign country.
It's not considered a foreign language. If his movies are nominated if they're nominated for an awards, they would be nominated for Best Picture. That would never be nominated for.
If he was, in saying that, if he ever did a movie that was all in Maori and all that, then I think in that case that will probably get into that will be a technicality for foreign language. But it's one of those ones like I'm not sort of saying that the formaters aren't great, and I'm just saying that, like, with subtitled movies, it's just ones that are not made for me. And I mean, I'll give them a go if they're sort of like well known, like Pan's Labyrinth was, Parasite is. So I mean, it's not like I'm completely shutting them out altogether. And I mean, let's face it, it would have been interesting to see what Guillermo del Toro would have done with The Hobbit had he not dropped out.
I know. I was really kind of looking forward to his version of The Hobbit. I'll tell you right now, I know he would have did a great job with it because I know how he is with practical sets. He draws a lot of his stuff out. He has all this sketches and stuff. I'm telling you, it would have been really interesting. But what you're gonna say, Alex?
I mean, like, Guillermo del Toro is one of those wonderful directors. He loves to be creative and he loves to make original work. Now, that's to say, I'm not saying he can't make any work based on books or any kind of fiction or, iconic characters or anything in general. But at the same time, I feel like he's one of those people that he doesn't like to be put in a box. And if he doesn't like someone telling him, hey, this creature or this character has to do this. I feel like Del Toro is more like, you know what, fuck you. I'm gonna do whatever I want in this movie. This is my movie. And if I'm gonna have hobbits look weird, they're gonna look weird.
I only brought that up because he was originally.
Absolutely. I remember that. I remember being psyched for it, but I remember thinking, like, again, he creates these really fantastic original stories with these original characters so well. So him kind of going into that where it's so structured and behind a studio that's really micromanaging him over a big project, I feel like it wouldn't be the greatest combination. Yeah. So I wasn't surprised when he dropped out.
It couldn't look different than the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And that's the problem I think they had. He maybe was going to try to make things look a little bit different, and they didn't want that, which that's enough. We've been talking about this long enough. That was Alex's number 2, Pan's Labyrinth. My number 2. So we're going to go on to Malcolm's number 1.
My number 1 is my all-time childhood favorite movie. It's one that is considered one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's also one I'm actually disappointed was not on anyone else's list. It's the Great Wizard of Oz. This movie is just a complete great movie. Judy Garland as Dorothy just is amazing in this. And just all the characters you meet, it's just like they waved one on the book and just pulled all the characters out and just threw them on there. Like, just do what you did in the books. This is just a great movie, and it gets talked about a lot. So I'm not going to try and go into every detail. Everyone knows the story of the Wizard of Oz. Everyone knows sort of what happens, but the movie is, as some people may have seen on fantasy film fights, I defend that fan theory of Glinda being the true villain, but I stand by that theory. You can't change my mind.
Well, I'll tell you what, Malcolm. I love The Wizard of Oz. I think it's a great pick at number 1. It's an absolute classic. I mean, it has such great messages. I mean, the performances are great in it. It looks gorgeous. I got the 4K, and I'll tell you right now, the 4K looks amazing on my 4K TV. I highly recommend you see it in 4K if you haven't already. I think it's a great pick. It's an absolute classic. And I'll tell you, I like the was it Sam Raimi or was it Sam Raimi that did like an updated version?
It was Sam Raimi that did Oz and the Powerful.
I love that.
It wasn't an updated version. It was a prequel to the events of Wizard of Oz.
That was really a good version.
Rachel Weisz.
Yeah. James Franco. I really thought that was a good version of a prequel story. And I'll tell you right now, Malcolm, I saw Wicked. It's the greatest play I've ever seen. I've not seen many plays. My number 1 play I've ever seen is Wicked. So I'm a big fan of The Wizard of Oz. I think it's a great choice. Alex, you got any thoughts on The Wizard of Oz?
It's actually one of my honorable mentions. I love that movie. I like I said, I kind of going back to the classics. I do prefer Mary Poppins more. That's why that one got on the list rather than Wizard of Oz. It's fantastic, and it's also one of my favorite book to movie adaptations. It's a prime example of, like in the book, for example, her shoes are not red; they're like gray. But obviously, when it comes to a movie like that, where it's all that transformation and color and understanding the difference between these two worlds and imagination and everything, they knew gray shoes aren't going to cut it. It's a prime example of these little edits, how when transformed into a movie, how sometimes editing a book into a movie can be improved. How sometimes, and honestly, I think as a result, the movie is better than the book. So that's kind of a hot take.
Very, very.
That's a hot take. That's a rarity.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fantastic. It's wonderful. One of the most iconic songs of all time. And, creepy munchkins galore. I'm all about it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Alex, you're number one.
I'm so sorry, Malcolm, because I'm choosing another foreign language film. So this movie is very sentimental to me because I am Thai and I grew up with this movie significantly. My number one fantasy movie is Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Oscar-winning Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, directed by Ang Lee, released in 2000s. It was nominated for 10 or 11 Oscars. I can't remember how many it won, but it is beautiful. It is stunning. It's a story. Every time you watch it, you pick up on something new. You're constantly trying to learn something new about the characters. The choreography, oh my gosh, the fight scenes are beautiful. I've seen the movie like dozens and dozens of times. I'm still completely caught up in every single fight scene and how amazing that it is from between every one of the characters. And in terms of fantasy, I remember having this argument before with some people, and they were like, "No, it's definitely more of a historical fiction." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." But they literally fly in trees, bro. The chick at the very end, she flies off a mountain and ascends to the clouds. I mean, if that's not fantasy, I don't know what is. But it's just one. Again, I'm also, like mentioned, I'm Thai, and this was one of the first movies that I remember going with my mom and my grandma to see this, and my mom was like, "You have to see this movie. There are so few Asian movies out here, and we have to buy tickets now." And even watching it as I was 10 years old, I can appreciate it. I could see it was definitely something was beautiful about it. But as an adult, I'm like, this is fucking stunning.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I absolutely love Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Back about in the late 90s when this came out, I think, 99, 98 in there somewhere? 2000. Mm-hmm. It was hard to find foreign films in theaters.
And don't worry, Malcolm, it actually comes in English as well. It's dubbed.
They don't, yeah, we didn't have as many in Orlando. We didn't have as many theaters back then. And so I would call the local film critic up, and you could call the newspaper and talk to the guy on the, "Hey, I'm looking for Shakespeare in Love. I'm looking for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I'm looking for blah, 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 whatever." And "When's it coming? I want to see these films, Pan's Labyrinth, whatever." And he'd be like, "All right, it's coming in 3 weeks. It'll be at this theater." And I was there that day for those types of movies because you hear about them. You hear the buzz. Back then the internet wasn't this thing it is today. So you had to read, or you watch Ebert and Roper, which is my go-to back for about 30 years. I watched Siskel and Ebert, and then Ebert and Roper. And they're like, circle on that one. I'm fine where the hell that's going to play at 19, 20, whatever old I was. And then when you watch it, you're like, what the heck did I just see? This is the most amazing thing I had ever seen at that time. The flying and the fighting and the trees and the clothes and the colors. And it's like, wow. And then they do it again with Hero. And then they do it again with another. You're like, man, they can never do this again. They keep doing it over and over again. And last year there was Shadow, which was crazy. These filmmakers, and it takes them months and months and months to do this string choreography. They cut all the strings out so you don't see the strings. So it looks like they're flying and stuff like that. And
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where it I don't want to say it created these, it didn't, what's the word I'm looking for? It created these ideas that it almost became like a joke, the whole like flying on strings kind of thing during fight scenes. That kind of created that whole thing, especially during like kung fu fights and everything. But it was like one of the first movies about that world. Sure, I mean, like I can understand where like fantasy's not like the prime element. Like there's no magic wands, there's no wardrobes, no talking animals or anything. But same time,
imagine a world of the ancient Asian cultures, and it was like this bigger than life world, right?
Yeah, it just comes down to there's this idea though. What your priorities are, the sense of honor and ambition, and what it means to find yourself in this world where especially, I mean, obviously a lot of the female characters, they're held just to a certain understanding and standard, and specifically in this movie, but especially in that world of that social status and class, where it Malcolm, you just got to see it, man.
Foreign films will surprise you, Malcolm.
It's great.
You haven't seen Crouching Tiger, Malcolm?
Well, I was about to say, everyone's assuming I haven't seen it. Yeah, I mean, once again, this is another one of those critically acclaimed ones I've seen because I knew it was in the Oscars a lot, and I've seen it. Now that I know there's actually a dubbed version of it, I'll probably try and find that
version. I mean, it's just like there's a few little minor differences, but like it doesn't really change anything. Like,
because like this is one that I actually did like, even though I couldn't understand what was going on because the subtitles go so fast. They just, but it's one that I watched. I did enjoy. I believe there is a sequel out there as well.
I don't want to talk about it.
Ooh.
I'm not. I consider that a completely different movie.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's no association at all, and there should never be.
All right. Well, that's good news. All right, guys. We got to the end of the show. Malcolm, what is your 5-1?
My 5-1 was Stardust was 5, Princess Bride was 4, Order of the Phoenix was 3, Return of the King was 2, and Wizard of Oz was 1.
And Alex, what is your 5-1?
It is Return of the King, Mary Poppins, Princess Mononoke, Pan's Labyrinth, and last but not least, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
All right, my number 5, Stardust. My number 4 is Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. My number 3 is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. My number 2 is Pan's Labyrinth. My number 1 is Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Malcolm, what honorable mentions do you have, real quick?
I actually didn't really have a lot. There's like a lot of the honorable mentions I've already talked about. Like Mary Poppins would have been one of them.
All right. Alex, you got any honorable mentions?
Okay, so I don't have much time, so I'm gonna be quick. Okay, so I got My Neighbor Totoro. I got 1999's Mummy. I got The Labyrinth with David Bowie. I got Stranger the Fiction with Emma Thompson and Queen Latifah, as well as Will Ferrell. Yeah. The underrated fantasy, like current movie. I really, really enjoy. I love that movie. Ghostbusters. What We Do in the Shadows, Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, and a few other movies. Freaks.
Okay. Oh, Love from last year? Oh, man, was that surprisingly good.
Yeah.
I got Neverending Story, How to Train Your Dragon, Willow, and Beauty and the Beast from 1991. Those are my honorable mentions. Malcolm, where can you be found?
You can find me at Take 3 Productions, hosting Rankum and Late Night with Take 3. You can also find me on Full Metal, hosting Full Metal Random, and you can find me competing all over the fan leagues.
And Alex, where can you be found?
Do you mind me asking when this is debuting?
Third week in April.
3rd week in April. Oh, okay. So I was going to mention who I'm having on next week for Schmobates, but never mind. But every week I'm part of the Call to Action crew. I host Schmobates. I host it every single Wednesday at 9:30 Central, 7:30 Pacific, where it's a Schmodown themed debate show where we have competitors try to answer and argue the hottest questions in Schmodown, such as best belt match to who would be the best competitor to go on a road trip with or have a food fight with, down to even better, most iconic team in Schmodown history. So a lot of different questions for sure. We like to make it fun here at Call to Action in general.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, you can find me at Dan Skipbound on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. And if you want to go read a bunch of my movie reviews or sports articles that I wrote, you can go to cinesportstalk.com. That's cinesportstalk.com, or the site that I currently write for called Disappointment Media, DISPOINTMEDIA.com, disappointmedia.com. I just wrote a nostalgic review about Miracle, the 40th anniversary of the Miracle on Ice, from director Gavin O'Connor. And so for Malcolm and Alex.
Yes.
See you guys later. See you next time.
Thank you.